What's up, everybody? It's the Roundtable Sports Podcast. My name is Taylor McLean, and we're on to our fourth game of the week, the Los Angeles Chargers victory over the Miami Dolphins. I had been looking forward to this game all week. I love watching Tua and Justin Herbert, and I wanted to see them play each other and see where both of these teams are at this time, because both are going to factor in to the playoff mix going forward. So definitely the type of game that I like to watch. And so here we are. Before we get started with the football, let's give a shout out to Evergreen Power Solutions. They're the sponsor for the podcast. For my Texas listeners, you can give them a call. They'll save you money if they can on your current power bill. And then if you sign up every 9 to 12 months, they'll go back in there, renegotiate your power rates. If they can't, they're going to keep it at your same rate, so you're not participating in electricity prices going up. Sounds like a deal to me, especially for someone like me that forgets to go and renew their electricity contract. Give them a call at 888-886-6586 and give them prompt number 2. Let them know that the Roundtable Sports Podcast and Taylor McLean sent you. Once again, that's only for our Texas listeners. Let's go ahead and get to the football here. As I stated, I enjoy both of these quarterbacks and want good things for them. I've seen flashes of what they can be in their ultimate form, and we've seen it from Justin Herbert in years past, and we're just now getting to see Tua beat defenses with his mind, or he was going into this. But we'll get into Tua. Let's start off with the Los Angeles Chargers here. It's been a tough year for Justin, and the fact that he and the Chargers have put themselves into this position is kind of surprising when you think about all they've been through on offense. You know, he's just now getting Keenan Allen back to full speed, and then in this game, he got back Mike Williams, and that made a huge difference, especially when he's been fighting to stay upright with his offensive line being in shambles. Of course, when you lose your left tackle, Rashawn Slater, that's one thing, but not having your right tackle and then having Corey Linsley coming off of an injury, that does make things a lot tougher. And for Justin, it was critical today that he was able to move outside the pocket and create more time to get the ball down the field. We're pretty content to try and keep things in front of them and let Justin carve them up with short passes and the like, and they were glad to do so. In what seems like a shift the last couple of weeks, the Chargers have really embraced the passing game. They let Justin Herbert get off 51 passes, of which he completed 39 for 367 yards. But the average was low, 7.2. That speaks to what we're talking about here, where there's a lot of shell coverage. There was a lot of safeties over the top, and that left a lot of things underneath. Unfortunately, that wasn't the running game. They kind of ran into a little bit of a wall with that part of it, but something that the Chargers have been doing well is replacing those runs a little bit with the short passing game. Helps a lot to have Keenan Allen back out there running tight routes and getting separation in the short game. And then you've got Mike Williams to go over the top with and threaten the defense. And even though there was only a couple of plays where they were able to get loose for more than 20 yards, that threat with Mike, with Keenan, and with Justin's big arm made the Dolphins play back and allowed the Chargers to get those open passes underneath. Of course, can't help but mention Austin Ekeler if you're going to talk about the underneath passing. Justin's penchant for dropping it off to Austin Ekeler is part of the lifeblood of this offense without the run game. And if you have a defense that's going to play back on you, that's what you need to do. You need to be able to take advantage of the field that's in front of you and the short plays to try and break the Dolphins of that deep coverage so you can go over the top and take advantage of Justin's arm. But to the credit of the Chargers, they adjusted and kept taking those passes and kind of delivered a death by 1,000 cuts rather than the deep stuff that the Dolphins were going for pretty much all the time, it felt like. And Justin only had 4 rushes for 8 yards, but I don't think it can be understated just how big a part of this win his mobility played. It's not like you want to run a bunch of read option with Justin, far from it, but his ability to kind of slip out of the pocket today and get more time, especially going to his right, was crucial. I love the play with Big Mike where he rolls out to the right and then has enough arm to be able to hit Mike across the field. It's just plays like that that make me think that Justin is really special. And I've taken a lot of flack saying that Justin Herbert is one of the quarterbacks that I love because the Chargers have been so dysfunctional with their wins and with their play calling, organization, just all of the above. But I can see the talent through the trees on this one. And it's a credit to Justin that he's able to do what he's doing despite not having his bookend offensive lineman or the running game really supporting him all that much. But that's kind of been their MO in the last couple of weeks, especially to be able to throw their way out of these different jams that they get themselves into. The good news is that getting Joshua Kelly back seems to add something to the mix as far as their running game goes. It just gives them a different type of running back from Austin Eckler. I like Austin Eckler a lot, but he's kind of wearing down a little bit, and giving him a bunch of carries between the tackles isn't really going to help that very much. So having Joshua Kelly out there with fresher legs and being bigger, being able to run between the tackles with a little bit more heft and power gives the Chargers offense a little bit more oomph and gives them a different element to try and lean on at times. It still wasn't very successful, but still to have that as something you could pull out if you need to is a big jump up from where they were, where they just had Austin Eckler. And during those times, that was exacerbated by not having Keenan Allen and Mike Williams as well. But now that you've got them on the field, you can more successfully run game plans like this where you can get the ball off short and put it into some of your more dynamic receivers' hands. And then you've got Mike being able to go up and get it and give Justin two really credible threats that the defense has to worry about. That's what's going to help this offense get a little bit more space to operate underneath. And that's what got them through this game today. You know that the Chargers like to be able to throw the ball down the field and get big chunk plays with Justin Herbert's arm, but they adjusted and they took what the defense gives you. And that's why having a quarterback and having receivers that can take advantage of that quarterback's arm is so important for this offense and for offenses overall. Because if you can threaten all parts of the field, that's going to mean that the defense is going to have some part of the field that they can't cover. And that's the part that you attack. That's what happened for the Chargers today. And a lot of times you do that with the running game, but smartly, to their credit, they haven't really been pushing that issue as much as they would probably like to, because Lombardi kind of has an old school approach, as it were, but he's gone really West Coast at this point, throwing it to the backs in the backfield, trying to get them out in space to run. And with Justin's ability to put it on his guys in an elite way with his arm strength and put it on guys in a way that other quarterbacks can't, that should be their nearest path to success with this offense at this point. And now, as far as the Chargers go, they're definitely in the mix for the playoffs. 7-6 isn't exactly where you'd like to be, but there's still a pretty clear pathway to getting there if they can keep winning games. I just watched the Titans that they play next week, and they've been tough against the run as well. However, they just got torn up for the second straight week with a quarterback that's able to work the ball vertically down the field between Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence. So I have to think that Justin is going to have the ability to go in there and take advantage of that as well. It is on the road, and you'll want to watch for if David Long, Fulton, and Autry are probably going to be in there. Also look for Harold Landry as far as the pass rush goes, because a good pass rush could really throw this into jeopardy. But when you watch Trevor Lawrence do what he did and Joe Burrow the week before, I watched both those games, it makes me think that Justin Herbert with a full complement of wide receivers could take advantage of that, because having Mike Williams, having Keenan Allen over the top puts everybody in their appropriate place, and you're not having to lean on Joshua Palmer, Guyton, or DeAndre Carter as much. I heard a stat where DeAndre Carter has nearly played half the total snaps that he's played in the NFL in this one season for the Los Angeles Chargers. Throw in that Gerald Everett is a little bit above replacement level as an athlete, but his hands are just okay. And you're going to have a little bit of difficulty when you don't have your two top guys. And one of them in Keenan is a little older, and Mike Williams has had injury issues throughout his career. Throw in the year-long injury to Rashawn Slater and some other injuries. Lindsley and Pipkins and everybody has had time off at this point. So it's been tough to get everybody on the field and get them healthy, but it seems like they're kind of putting things together now. And with a beatable Titans team because of the way you play, Colts on the road on Monday Night Football, fine. They've been playing better, but I think that's a team that you can still beat. And then Rams and Broncos, who knows if Russ will be back by then. And of course, Rams are rolling out Baker Mayfield. Despite him winning a game, I don't feel that to be a strong situation either, especially if Aaron Donald's not back. So seems like a pretty clear path. You've got the Patriots, and on your level as far as the record goes, you could definitely sneak in on them. They looked really shaky on offense, despite them being Mac Jones and Matt Patricia hugging at one point during the game. That felt a little weird, but that's fine. If I was betting, I would say I would think the Chargers would have a clearer path, and I think that's who's probably going to make it amongst those two. Plus, they've got a game on the Dolphins now. The Dolphins are also in that mix at 8-5. So going to be a tight couple of weeks here. I got to think that all of these games will probably end up being meaningful games for the Chargers. It's just a question of, outside of the Titans, do any of those other guys have anything to play for, and what quarterbacks will they be playing at that time? Tannehill, Matt Ryan, Baker Mayfield, and either Russell Wilson or Rippon doesn't really scare me at all for them. And for the Chargers, I don't mean to talk just about the offense, but I wanted to get that out of the way so we could talk about the Miami Dolphins and what they did as well. For the record, they did a good job of keeping Herbert in front of them. It's just they couldn't really stop any of the rest of it or get to Herbert enough times. He was able to kind of skip out on a lot of their rushes and make more time. But really, it felt like the story to me was what the Chargers were able to execute against the Miami Dolphins offense as far as their game plan goes. You know, we saw Miami versus their big brother, the 49ers. It was kind of in question who was going to get called big brother to go into that game, but it was pretty clear afterwards who was who. The 49ers were set up in a big way to take away the middle part of the field, which is a big part of where the Miami Dolphins have been operating. There's this classic 10-yard slant or so that they've been running and getting guys open with and threatening the defense there, and then they work it to the outside. Well, it felt like the Chargers knew exactly what the Miami Dolphins wanted to do on every play. Like every time that they had one of those breaking routes over the middle that Tua would just light somebody up on and hurt the defense, those plays weren't there. They weren't making them, and it wasn't necessarily because of the throws that Tua was making. It was very tightly covered. And it worries me for the Miami Dolphins overall that the 49ers were able to show everybody a game plan that stops the Miami Dolphins. And then the Chargers, who were without Derwin James and a couple others, but especially Derwin James, they were able to execute that same game plan and take away the middle part of the field. And outside of Tyreek picking up a fumble and Tyreek getting open on a deep pass and a cornerback falling down on that pass, there just wasn't a lot for the Miami Dolphins to take advantage of down the field. Seemed like there was everything in front of them if they could have executed something similar to what the Chargers executed, because they kind of did the same thing to each other in a different way. It seemed like there was a little bit more shell coverage for the Chargers overall. It seemed like there was a little bit more coverage in the middle for the Dolphins, but they both tried to take away what the other team wanted to do, and one team adjusted and the other team did not. The Chargers adjusted. The Chargers came out, tried to make some deep passes, but ultimately ended up working the short game and getting things done, making some big drives to get the win. Felt like the Dolphins just kept going back to the well, despite there being plenty of space right along the line of scrimmage. Hit them for screen passes, get Mostert, get Jeff Wilson out into some space. But to the Chargers' credit, despite dropping back 7 and 8 guys most of the night, in a day with so much coverage, 19 for 92 doesn't really get the ball rolling. And then you're setting Tua up to have to pass the ball nearly every time down the field into really tight coverage. Those cornerbacks were on Waddle. They were on Tyreek, especially when they tried to break over the middle. And Tua just didn't have another pitch in his repertoire. Neither did Mike McDaniels. It's like, hey, we can do this. If we can't do this, then what are we going to do? And it hadn't felt that way until the last couple of games, which makes me think this defense is, the outside pitch for somebody that can't hit outside pitches. And NFL coordinators are going to key on this. They're going to watch these 2 games, and then they're going to put their defense out in a similar scheme and dare Miami to beat them. And now it's the Buffalo Bills. It's the tough part of your schedule. And as I mentioned with the Los Angeles Chargers, they're kind of nipping at your heels a little bit here. So are the Patriots. So are you going to be able to come out, beat the Bills, beat the Packers, Patriots, and Jets? That's not the easiest schedule, despite the Packers not playing all that well. And despite I think the Patriots being beatable, you got to know that Bill Belichick is going to take a look at these games and figure out something here too. So a lot of games you need to win. And granted, Mike White might not be the quarterback by week 18 of the Jets either, but they've been playing good. And I think they're capable of executing the game plan. The only team that I don't think has the plus personnel exactly is the Packers, and they have some of the guys. So I'll be watching this Buffalo Bills game very, very closely. First of all, it's on a Saturday, so that helps, but also because this has been really disturbing, especially when the Chargers are able to execute this. Like the Chargers cornerbacks being all over Jalen Waddle and Tyreek, and then you can't hit Gesicki. There's really nothing else going on in your offense. That's a problem. That's a big problem, especially when Tyreek hurts his ankle. You saw on the 60-yard play, he kind of comes up lame, and he did still keep playing. And Mike McDaniels did come out and say that it is bumps and bruises, and he's day to day. So we're likely to see him again. But if you don't even have those plays and Tyreek's not out there and they're able to key in on Waddle, then you're going to be in big trouble out there, because part of the dynamic has been, okay, we can't shade to Tyreek. We can't shade to Jalen Waddle. We kind of have to play them more straight up. And they've been making plays off of that. It was just out of sorts today. And when you get Tua off his rhythm like that, it has really been bad, and he hasn't been able to adjust. And this is absolutely a concern for first-year coordinators and first-year offenses, that you don't have more tricks in the bag once everybody's kind of figured out your initial game plan, and then you're forced to do things that you don't like to do, or worst case scenario that and what happened today that you're not capable of doing. And that's a big problem going forward for a team that has talent on both sides and has playoff aspirations. Now, I don't mean to put this all on Mike McDaniels or Tua. The offensive line hasn't been as good in the last 2 weeks either, which makes a lot of sense when you're playing the San Francisco 49ers, but it makes a lot less sense when you're talking about the Los Angeles Chargers here. It's not that I hate this unit or I don't think that it has talent. It's just without Joey Bosa, it definitely doesn't have a whole lot of pop. Khalil Mack is fine, but he's not the same dominator, game changer that he used to be. Luckily, like I said, this game plan came through, and then the safety and the linebackers, specifically Kenneth Murray and Drew Tranquil, I like him too, were able to execute and get this done. I mentioned that Derwin James was out too. It didn't hurt anything that Alohi Gilman came in there and had a solid game. Asante Samuel, Michael Davis, everything held up on that side. It's just they weren't pushed by Mike McDaniels or the offense to cover anything else but the main shtick. I mean, the main shtick is good. It's what got you here. But you have to have another pitch. You have to be able to do other things take advantage of the field in front of you when it's given to you. And then because you're putting Tua in a position, you're kind of hanging him out to dry and expecting him to raise the level of this team at a time where he's not capable of doing that to the extent he would need to get this win. Like, he's good and he's definitely shown us something, but as we saw here, he's still not on that Joe Burrow, Patrick, Josh Allen, and Justin Herbert type level at this time. Like, do I think he's better than Kirk Cousins? And would I want to have Tua, even if Tua was charged the same thing as Kirk Cousins? Yes, because I believe that Tua could develop into someone that can beat the defense with his mind if he's able to keep progressing. He's just not quite there yet. Like, we're hitting a bunch of the rudimentary things, like he's looking people off and he's able to run this offense. But as far as, throwing him back there and just 5-step dropping and having him pick apart a defense, that's not on the table right now. That's just not in his bag of tricks to this point. And I think even the most fervent Miami Dolphins fan, if they really checked their feelings and trusted them, they would know that as well. Gotta love the progressions Tua has made. No doubt about it. Can he be a top 10 quarterback? Absolutely. Is he quite there yet? And is he ready to combat every situation? This game, the 49ers game, has shown us that it's a no. Same thing with Mike McDaniels. It's kind of a group effort on both those parts. I love the way that he diagrams things. And there's a lot of interesting plays and concepts out there. And you're working into a place and into a QB tier that he's never been to before, but there's still work to do here. But I'm not going to let one game get me off of them either. It's just a growing experience. This is a lesson that they both have to learn. You learn lessons through failure. And this was a failure. This was a failure to adjust and a failure of the offense overall. There's a new defense out there that you're going to face again. You have to be able to adjust. The Bills went through this. The Chiefs went through this. All great teams do this. You know why? Because you're winning. Teams are trying like hell to figure out what you're doing. And eventually somebody's going to come up with something that gives you fits. It's now, okay, I can't do this. I can do that. That's where we're at. And Tua doesn't have every iron in the bag yet. He absolutely could. He's got the potential to be Drew Brees with a little bit better arm and much better mobility. He has that potential, but he's got to develop the mental side still. And there's still growth there. It's still not quite on the money to the point where he can be an elite quarterback all the time. That's the next step, is the consistency. It's the same thing for Trevor Lawrence. We've seen a lot of flash games, but we don't see it every game. And that's what we're talking about here, is you have to consistently be able to beat these guys with your mind and consistently have them off balance. The Chargers weren't off balance at all. They were in control and they knew what Miami was going to do. There was so many times that, they're working that middle stuff and the corner is just right there on top of him. Not, coming in and batting it down with a good play. I'm talking sitting there waiting for it. Like, he knows what's coming. So you can't do that in the NFL. You can't be doing the exact same thing. You have to evolve. That's why it's like Scott Linehan had one good year for the Dallas Cowboys as a coordinator. Then teams eventually figured it out during that year and then had the whole off season to compare. Scott came out and ran exactly the same thing again. Didn't work even close to the same way. You have to evolve. These two games are a learning experience from the Miami Dolphins, a team that is a little bit ahead of schedule where we thought they would be in the first year with this coach. So it's catching up to them a little bit. Hard schedule coming up, but we're going to get to see what the Miami Dolphins are made of. This is a big statement game. Can you come back and put this on the Bills after you let two teams bully you? That's not what I've seen from this team so far, and that's not what I would expect. But I do have some concerns for them playing the Buffalo Bills, even though the Bills have been in kind of a lull recently. We're in a 2-game lull for the Miami Dolphins too right now. So I don't mean to be so negative. I know this was just one game, or really it's just 2 games that we're talking about here with Miami kind of struggling, but I'm a realist, and I've watched both of these Miami games. Hell, I've watched both the Chargers games too, and they're kind of, they're going in opposite directions. Chargers offense is going up, they're getting their guys back, and they're able to run their offense stronger. On the Miami side, they lose some linemen, and here we are too. And you know what? I didn't address the lineman part about it enough either. Like, you got Terran Armstead back, but it's still just a bunch of guys out there outside of him. Like, to be honest, I'm kind of not in on any of them that started today outside of him. Connor Williams has been okay and has been a bigger bright spot than I would have thought before the season, because I thought there was definitely a reason the Cowboys should let him go soft, but he's actually been better. It's the rest of it. It's the right tackle, especially. I was watching Brandon Shell out there, and I don't like that at all. He's too big and slow for that position to be on the outside. So a lot of work to do on the offseason on that part. But as I mentioned a little bit before, I think this team is a little ahead of schedule as far as where they're at. Unfortunately, they don't own their first round pick because it was forfeited because of the whole tampering thing. So that may be an issue, but I like the way that Mike McDaniel and the regime drafting for him have been putting talent around him. And the good news is he does know what he wants and what kind of players he wants. So this should be an improving situation going forward. It's just I'm a little disturbed by what I've seen in the last 2 weeks. Well, that's what I've got for this game. Should have more videos coming out. We just put Trevor Lawrence out. We've got some shorts coming. Saw some plays in this game that I really liked. Obviously, the Tyreek fumble is a singular play that we haven't seen maybe ever. So that was fun. So look for more videos coming out. I think I've got one more game in me. This is the 4th game. I think we're going to get to 5. Hopefully, this should be coming out Wednesday morning. So hopefully you're still interested. And of course, download the podcast on any other format. If you're on YouTube, like, subscribe. Those are the big ones, so I can keep spreading my football word here. And have a great rest of your day.